Now we have set up our SQL database. For that, you must make sure that you have an SQL database installed. To do that, I have to open up another terminal. In this, I would rather press Control tilde or plus here, so I have another terminal window. Now I make sure if I have the SQL database installed or not. So for that, I'm showing here the SQL Management Studio, because maybe most of you love working with SQL Server Management Studio. Okay, so to first connect, and I have already installed SQL Server, and I can able to access from VMware machine and from my Linux machine as well. So I have done the setup, and I will definitely create a video about how I did this, but for this video we are focused on how we can create our SQL connection for our .NET Core MVC application. So I've been connected out. I just know that I know that my server's IP is 192.160.10.8, and my username is the SA, and the password is, that's it. I connect with my database. If anything goes wrong, definitely I don't know that I'm not properly entering my server name. Let me get clear indication by going to my Wi-Fi IP. That is, oh, it's 10.3. So I should cancel this out. I should press 10.3 because my server is installed on Linux, so I should know the server IP. So now I am get connected to my SQL database server. Now I will open a new query and create a database with for project for our positive ID generator. I will name it PyGen. Create. So for that, I just type command create database PyGen. PyGen. Okay. I hit enter. I press F5, and the database created. So for that, so now let's create our first table, user. So create. So for that, I first type what database I should use PyGen, and I create table, create table. So to create any table, you should type create table, and the table name I should say user. Let's take user, and I should know his first name, last name. That's it. That should be a user profile table. So for that, let's take it like name it name, the first name. So the type is say varchar. For this to declare string, you should say varchar, and the string size 50. Last name I do similar, varchar 50, and maybe I say age. We say DOB, date of birth. That is date, and about me, varchar 100. I think that's enough. We will modify if we later we need anything, or we can say title. Okay, that's it. Once you're done with the table fields, you just press F5, and then it says incorrect scenario to create table users. F5. Okay, maybe there's some built-in few keyword that you can't use for creating tables. I have finally successfully created our table and our database users. So now we can just simply go back to our application, and we have to first create our SQL database connection. So for that, I'm gonna take you to the very simple steps so you don't get confused. For that, let's create a class, our SQL object. Let me just go through this whole application folders, the application structure of this MVC application. You see there's a bin folder, there's a control folder, there's a model folder, object, properties, view, www root, app setting the gist, app setting the development the JSON, app setting the JSON, positive ID generator, CS project program.cs, and startup.cs. So if I explain it very quickly, the controller folder consists of all things that handles all traffic. It tells where to get, that tells where, what to send to the browser, what to get from the browser. It controls like logic of how to, where to get things, where to send things. That's it. And the model folder consists of class objects that tells what real world object your application consists of and what each field of information each object consists of. You tells here in the model folder. You create your real world objects and then you tell them what to do in controller folder, controller classes. And once you have done everything and you would like to render your object getting input or while sending output, you use view folders. You render your objects, the input and output, in the view folder. In the www root folder, you just have that your assets, JavaScript files, your CSS files, your image files, video files, etc., etc. And that's it. We will go further later. Um, let's without wasting any time, let's create our SQL object. So for that, we will create a control object, control class. So an easy way to create a control class is use a command. So the command is, for that you have to install .NET ESP code generator. I have already a command written here. This is .NET add package, MVC .NET add package, Microsoft Visual Studio web code generation design. Okay, let me create that here. .NET add package, Microsoft Visual code generation design. Let's hit enter and let's see what happens. Okay, now we have edited the terminal.net, so now we can able to add control class right from our terminal window that will be responsible for database operations within our database, within our MVC applications. So to do that, first we have to create a controller. I have a very simple command that help us create a controller, and that is this command. I have a list of very handy commands available in my OneNote page. I will definitely share with you. So before executing this command, you should have installed .NET ESP code generator. So you'll be able to execute command for generating controllers, views, and even model as well. We will take a dig on all of them, but let's first create a database controller. I name it as database controller. I hit enter, and I know my output directory is controller, it is here, and I hit enter. Now start building a controller class And yes, we are done with it. So now we have database controller class here. uh, so to make a SQL database accessible from this, I have to first create an object that will take SQL data while once I execute the query, and then take the data and send back to other controllers who requires the data. So for that we use DataSet Object, DataSet data set. Okay, so DataSet right now is not accessible. So to get access, we should write a namespace for it, because its library is system.data. So now we have access to the DataSet object. So what DataSet object is, I already described you that it helps us uh, getting database contents as tables. So it takes elements as tables, while execute query it saves the content as tables. So you can simply say that dataset helps you to serialize or deserialize the data. So it provides a medium to it bridges a gap between database and MVC controller. So you will easily able to get the data from the database and send the database as a real world object that form that it will contain the data, table data, isn't it? Without worrying about fields, uh, declaring field names separately and then save the data, which will be very confused, very complicated. So it really helps to simplify things. So let's assign dataset object. I name it as DS, a new dataset. That's it. I have it as an object now. Now once I have the dataset object ready, I should have to create a database connection that has the database connection string, because without connection string you can't authorize to an SQL database. So I have database connection object. For that I db connection, it was a new db database connection. Okay, so it's not available because there is another namespace for this using SQL client. So again, I can able to declare the SQL connection, which has the SQL connection string in it. You can see I opened it, and so it had the connection string in it. So an easy way to get SQL connection string, I know a website that has handy list of SQL connection strings. You can try them out, which works best for you. For me, this standard security SQL string works me the best. I use that within this code, and I know my server name, which is localhost, because I installed this within my PC machine. And database name we have earlier created with the name PyGen, and user ID is similar as a default admin ID, and the password is this. Okay, let's put all in one line. That's it. Now we have SQL connection ready, And the next thing we have to do is create an SQL data adapter object, so which will help us to execute queries within this SQL connection object. So to do that, you have to create an object SQL data adapter. Yes, I will name it SQL data equals to new SQL data adapter. It consists basically two parameters. One is the SQL query you execute, and other is the database connection. Okay, I don't know why it's having an issue with it. Yeah, I think I should create a method before I call this up. Yes, let's create a method, public void SQL data. So this SQL data should have an SQL query string, because we will have to write our SQL query in string format, so we will be able to execute queries. So next is next there is no second parameter we need, as we already have the database connection above there. So let's pass on the two parameters. One is the query, and second is our DB connection. That's it. So now the second thing, we have SQL adapter ready. Now once I will call this SQL data method with the SQL query in it, pass on to this as an argument, I will able to execute query and I got the data. But where it should save, yeah, it should save within this DataSet object. But right now we are not doing anything for that. To do that, we should have a very handy method right inside the SQL data adapter object, SQL data dot fill within DS is our dataset object. So once I execute any query, it should fill the data inside this as tables. And once I've done it, I should have to close the database connection by typing db connection dot close. That's it. So this is how it executes a query. So now we have things set up. Okay, now let's create a sample query and we will execute in the home page and print the data. That's it. So let's just create a query. I I think we have we already have created an created a table within database which name is users, and whose fields are, let's open it out, let's select all from users. I press F5, it's executing the query. Why it takes time? Maybe something missing. Yeah, there's, I have 1 2 3 4 four columns: first name, last name, DOB, and about me. So let's use the query insert into users, and the columns are first name, last name, DOB, and about me. Okay, and the values for them are, I think if you haven't ever done SQL query, it's a very simple query. It just adds data within users table. I just write the column names and the values I would like to insert. So I say my name is with apostrophe Mohammed Tayyib, and Rana, and last name is Rana, and I say DOB is 1999. That this is a format that works for inserting data as date. Month is with month, within year, month, date, and time format. Month is 11, and date is 29, 23. And I hit comma, and then I should insert about me. It is interesting stuff. Now I've entered a date, and I should also enter the time as well, within hour, minute, second format: 0, 000, column, 00, column, 00. So this is the time format. I can also insert it as, I think, is the characters. So now we have SQL query ready. I can name it as string, and string string insert record, insert user. Okay, so that's it. I press semicolon here. You can see this with double quotation and plus sign. You can easily able to add multi-line string, which is not usually allowed, but with plus sign and double quotation, you can easily able to do multi-line string, as many as you like. So now we have the SQL string SQL query ready, and we can call this SQL query within our home controller. So let's come back to the home controller, and before that I explained to you that how we're gonna show this SQL query data to home page. To know that, to understand that, you should know what is MVC application is. MVC application is a model view controller based application architecture. So you should have model consist of the data structure, that your application consists of the real world objects, and view, it actually present how that data structure will be rendered, viewed to the HTML pages once you perform any operation on that data object. And the controller is something that handles all of these things, takes the data, it take that data structure, that data object, and perform the operation on the data, and then represent and show it back to the data at the web page. And so in each control consists of many action methods. Action method consists of a set of code that represent a logic for a web page. And every web page consists of index page. So right now we have one and two methods, index and privacy. So index method will be responsible for logics for index page, and privacy page is responsible for logic for the privacy page. So one more thing to mention is that every index, every action method for a controller has its a view page. Usually, maybe sometimes it doesn't have, because then you don't need a view page. Not, you won't need to create a view page as well, but usually they have a view page. You can see this home page has a home, this home controller has a home folder, and home folder consists of two CSHTML pages, which are the view pages for this. So let's create our let's insert data by executing our SQL query here. To do that, we have to create a database controller. You should initialize database controller class object here by typing database controller, and db controller equals to new database controller. That's it. Now we can able to call this the method we created, db controller dot insert, that is SQL SQL data. SQL data, and it should have a SQL query. We already have the SQL query written before, that is db controller dot insert let's make it public. I don't know why it is not accessible. It should be accessible here. Yeah. Dot insert data. Insert user. Oh, sorry. Insert user. Well, let's make it public. Okay, now we have accessible here. So now we can access this SQL query, and now it's confirmed that we'll be able to access this SQL query. But how about showing that this data? So we know that once the query will be executed, it should be saved within DS object, dataset object. So we have to call a dataset object, and so to call this dataset object, we should write this db controller dot ds. Okay, you'll access here as well. A dot so we have the data in here in it.